When I saw the theme, game changer, it's quite an interesting one. But I brought it back to life. Have you ever imagined yourself boiling water? You have a kettle of water in a jug. Now it gets to 100 degrees Celsius and the water is boiling. And you see some of the water start escaping as vapor. Now in physics, it tells us that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and that vapor also happens at 100 degrees Celsius. So ask yourself a question. What then is the difference between the water and the vapor? Whenever I thought about this, until I got to physics class and they said there's something called the latent heat of vaporization. Now, they're both 100 degrees Celsius, but one is in water state and the other is in vapor state. Game-changing moments or game-changing for me doesn't mean that someone translates and becomes a different person. You're the same temperature, it's the same thing you're doing, but you have just elevated yourself to another state. Just like vapor elevates itself away from the state of water. That's game-changing. It's changed the game entirely. Still the same person, but playing at a different level. That's exactly what I think when you talk about the concept of game-changing or game changer generally in life. I actually think His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi probably explain this identification of game-changing moments a little bit better because he's had a couple of them in his life. But I'll try to give you an instance, one of the instances where I think I identified and I leveraged on a game-changing moment. It was at the very good time in my career, of course, as a banker. I was just getting senior mid-level. But in that time, banks weren't funding healthcare businesses. They couldn't, even found it difficult funding education businesses and certain businesses that relate to real life. There were things we liked to talk about, but there were things we said were not in our risk appetite. At that particular point, I knew that there was an opportunity. Now it's a season. I tell people, I say, you've got to learn to identify seasons. You probably will not be able to make seasons. You can't make winter come. You can't make dry season or Harmattan come, but you need to identify what is about to come. Now, because I was in that space in banking and we weren't really doing any of this, I knew that it was a season for people, for anyone that was willing to go learn it. That was how I left a very good company I liked at the time, very good career prospects. And I took a net pay cut to go and understand what happens in healthcare. An opportunity came in healthcare. There was another opportunity in education, but I preferred to go in for the healthcare opportunity. And that was how I went. And everything I do today that has exposed me nationally, internationally, it's really hinged a lot on that move that I made. At the moment, when I was making the move, my mom thought something was wrong with me. Of course, my wife had learned to trust me over time. We were already married for pretty much a long time at the time, and she allowed me to do what I did. But it was a game-changing moment. I took a pay cut, I went, I understood it, and the rest is history. So you must understand seasons. And seasons, you understand seasons by looking around what is happening around you. I looked around what was happening around me, and I understood that it was a season to go learn this thing, and I took the plunge. That's one way to identify game-changing moments that present themselves to you. Many times people ask me whether, or some people have the assumption or assume that you just take what life throws at you, especially in your career. But I differ. I believe that you can actually, unlike water that cannot really trigger itself to become vapor, you can actually trigger yourself to make that jump in your career. I always tell the story of how I started off as an engineer. My background is in telecommunications engineering and had worked with a core technical firm. But at the time, I was wondering that the bosses in that core technical firm were of non-engineering backgrounds. And the engineers, no matter how skilled they remained at the middle level. And as naive as I was, I thought that one of the ways to become the business person was to go look for a job in a commercial environment. So I put into work in a bank. Luckily or unluckily at the time, I got the job in the bank. And guess what I was told to do? I was selling savings accounts to children, to business people, as in basic go and raise deposits. At the time, I thought the job was unintelligent. And I then sought to leave. And every step of the way that I sought to leave, I couldn't. I'll get to the finals in any of the interviews, in any of the telecoms firms or the IT firms, and I wouldn't be taken. Even though I had invested all my time doing all my exams, I was a Cisco certified network professional, I had done my information system audit, I was in security, I was a certified ethical hacker at the time. So I was just piling up all these certifications because I wanted to leave this environment, but I couldn't. One day, after giving a deep thought, I asked myself, but Obi, is there nothing you enjoy in this your job that you do today? And I realized that, hey, no matter how mundane my job looked, I enjoyed having conversations with customers and thinking about their growth plans, how they can leverage credits from banks, how they can raise equities, whatever it was, just getting more capital for growth. I noticed that it kept me alive. I derived joy doing this. So what did I do? I took away all my certifications from my CV and told myself, this thing you have done for the past 2 years or 3 years, you've got to build from there. What do you have in your hands? That's why I usually ask people. Because every experience you have is actually a capital for your future. How do you trigger these game-changing moments? First, stop living in denial. Accept your position where you are and build from it. Because in that position you found yourself lies everything you require for that great future that you desire. I'm not trying to sound motivational, but this is real. If you live in denial, you will take a very long time before you can discover yourself. So are you a tailor? Do you make food? Whatever it is, you shouldn't tell people, oh, I'm doing this now, but I'm waiting for this. No. What you're doing, be proud of it. I wasn't proud of my job at the time, but immediately I became proud of my job and I could share with people. I experienced tremendous growth. In fact, in banking parlance, I think I moved more than one level per year for about 5 years. You can imagine. And prior to that time, I hadn't progressed at all, even though I was producing the results. So triggering that game-changing moment was, the game changer for me was accepting where I was. And secondly, another lesson I got from it and in life is that many people try different things. You keep jumping from pillar to post. In your dream, you're something else. When you're discussing with your friends, you're something else. In your job, you're something else. Can you just stay in one place? Can you imagine a plant? You get a bean seed and you put it into a pot. You come in tomorrow morning, it hasn't grown, you uproot it and put it into another pot. You're blaming the soil. You water it again, you come tomorrow, it hasn't grown, you pull it out again and you put in another pot. You will continue doing it and you won't see any growth because the bean needs to stay in one place. It needs to get planted. It's only when its roots start coming out then you see it sprout. So stay in one place, stay focused. Stop jumping from one place to the other. Hone your skills, own what you're doing, be proud of it. And number 3, don't be scared to jump when it's time. Don't be scared. Own your thing and don't be scared to move. Listen, immediately anything starts becoming too important for you, then it starts taking the place of God. It starts taking the place of your maker. In fact, I have a principle, and I can't tell these stories. I have a couple of stories like that. Immediately there's an individual in your life that believes you cannot succeed without them. It's a sign that you need, it's a game-changing moment. Very solid game-changing moment. Why? Because you need to defy what they're saying. It might mean you're going out of meal for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, whatever it is. But immediately someone or something starts representing, taking the place of your maker, then the whole universe is sounding a bell to you that this is a trigger moment for game changing. Because immediately you defy them and you take a walk, guess what? The whole world will open to you. That's how to trigger game-changing moments. Identify where you are and be at home with it. Be proud. Let your roots go down deep. Stop jumping from one place to the other. Let your heart and your brain connect with what you're doing. And fourthly, defy people, defy things. Immediately people start taking a position of God in your life when they say, you can't do this, or you can't succeed without me, or you can't do this, or go away and let's see what you become. Do you know what? It is a call. The universe is calling you. God is calling you. Everything is conspiring to take you up. You just need to face that fear and say, you weren't there when I was born. I'm taking a walk. That's a game-changing moment. You know, it's always a privilege having to speak with the SMFest community. You have come along up till this point, and it's not coincidence that the theme is Game Changer this year. I expect that SMFest will switch it up. Would like to see you in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, in Anambra, in Jos, everywhere across Nigeria, creating communities and giving businesses an opportunity to scale. You're doing such a great job here, and it's your turn to begin to transform this country. You're transformed your town. Let's switch it up. Everyone, turn to your neighbor and say, it's a game-changing moment. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye.